Tonight, man wanted by Tauranga Police, Trustpower rescue helicopter, and Waikato Regional Council raids. Kia ora and good evening. Welcome to Central News on TV Central for Friday the 20th of March. I'm Amanda Harper. In today's news, Tauranga Police are asking members of the public to report any sightings of Trevor Graham Joss. Joss is wanted for charges that include assault with a blunt instrument and burglary. The 41-year-old is described as male Māori, about 175 centimetres tall and of solid build. He has tattoos on his arms and hands and a tribal design on his neck. Police say Joss is a patched Black Power member and has contacts in Tauranga, Whakatane and Rotorua. Police warn he should not be approached and any sightings of him should be reported to the nearest police station. The completion of the Te Kuiti Medical Centre refurbishment means staff can rest assured the office won't slide down the slope in the event of a natural disaster at the Te Kuiti Hospital. The Waikato District Health Board spent $850,000 on the refurbishment after the Waikato DHB took seismic evaluations of all its buildings as part of a post-Canterbury earthquake requirement and found the medical centre's pile foundations were partly on solid ground and partly on land at risk of subsidence. Work began last September and includes a new wing, repositioning of the helipad and other maintenance. The Bay of Plenty Men's Interclub for Golf is in full swing, and there are some real surprises in the heavyweight division. After 3 rounds, traditional top performers Tauranga and Mount Maunganui seem to be struggling to get their best teams out on the course. Last weekend at Omanu, the Mounties only managed a half with Kawerau, while Tauranga also had to share the spoils with traditional cellar dwellers Taupō. Meanwhile, Omanu are off to a perfect start with comfortable wins over the Mount, Tauranga and Springfield. Also keeping pace are Mokoroa, who with 25.5 points are equal with Omanu at the top of the ladder. Kawerau continue to create excitement for their loyal band of supporters by following up wins in the first 2 rounds with the half on Sunday with the Mount. Sadly, it looks like a long season for the 2 premier Rotorua teams, especially Springfield, who for so long ruled the roost. They have gained just 4 points after 3 rounds. Whakatane bounced back after 2 early losses to beat Te Puke, despite Harry Hillier winning the battle at number 1 over fellow New Zealand junior rep Henry Spring. Federated Farmers condemn breaches of animal welfare and say farmers and trucking operators must follow the animal welfare rules when they take stock to processing works, especially as drought conditions reduce animal feed in some parts of the country. A picture of Jersey cows being transported across Cook Strait for slaughter recently led to thousands of shares on Facebook, attacks on farming practices and a complaint to the Ministry for Primary Industries. Federated Farmers Animal Welfare spokesperson Andrew Hoggard says the rules on stock welfare and stock transport are clearly laid out in the industry's codes of welfare practice. He says for transport, the trucker has to follow rules, such as keeping the animals fed and watered for long-distance transport, but both the trucker and farmer are legally responsible for making sure that stock are suitable for transport at loading. The 50s Forward Group, comprising Waterworld customers 50 years or older, marks its 25th anniversary this week. The group meets up to 5 times a week at Waterworld for both water-based exercise and social gatherings. At times, its membership has peaked at 100 participants. Pat Matthews, the 50s Forward coordinator and creator, is a former competitive swimmer. She says the members don't feel old and they find their health and well-being and the social aspect of the group to be very important. Matthew Bayliss, Hamilton City Council's Swimming and Recreation Manager, says the group has been one of Hamilton Pool's success stories, and he says they are very committed and enthusiastic. And now for our region's weather. Hamilton, fine with light winds, high of 23 and low of 8. Rest of the Waikato, it looks the same. Paeroa, 22 and 11 low. Matamata, 20 and 10. Te Awamutu, 23 and 8 low. Tokoroa, your high is 20 with a 7 low. Tauranga, morning cloud, fine with light winds. 21 high and 12 low. Te Puke, your high is 20 and low of 11. And for the marine forecast on the west coast, easterly 10 knots, turning early Sunday, northerly 15 knots. High tide is at 11:45 in the morning. East Coast Bay of Plenty, variable 10 knots, developing late Sunday into easterly 15 knots offshore. High tide is at 9:04 p.m. Coming up in the show, effluent management. Welcome back to Central News. Correct management of effluent processing and distribution is beneficial to both the environment and farmers. The Waikato Regional Council takes responsibility for properly informing those within the agri-industry about effluent management.
Well, we wrote the current rules on effluent management in the mid-90s, and it was about 2002 or thereabouts where we realised that there was a significant gap in terms of compliance with those rules. So it's been since then that we've been working particularly with a focus on improving compliance with the rules.
How have you been working with those in the industry to address this?
Well, it's been a range of initiatives. Firstly, we worked on establishing a code of practice for design standards, for ensuring that when farmers get advice, it's accurate. We introduced a storage calculator so that the size of pond that farmers have in their system meets their needs. And then subsequently we've worked with Dairy NZ on such things as the accreditation program, so that there's now 20 accredited designers nationally, 10 of whom are here today. And currently we're also working with Dairy NZ on the warrant of fitness for systems, so that a farmer can get their system checked to ensure that it's capable of meeting the required standard.
Compared with other countries on a global scale, how does New Zealand measure up?
Many other countries, major dairying countries, are much more tightly regulated than we are here. So their circumstances are quite different, and frequently those are in much more densely populated areas than New Zealand has, and in different environments. So the important thing is that here in the Waikato we have our requirements to suit our soils and climate and our industry arrangements. And once farmers have done the analysis on their system, they will find that managing the system for the nutrient value of their effluent will pay off financially and will put them well within the compliant status on their farm. So everyone will be a winner.
So basically, it's not about getting rid of the effluent so that it doesn't pollute our environment, but it's about using it effectively on the farm?
Correct. From a farmer's point of view, if they do that, if they figure out the value of the nutrients in their system and ensure that they get best value from that, there'll never be anything running off into water, will there? So then the environment is an incidental winner.
Is there a particular formula for managing effluent?
No. Every farm is different. They have differences in terms of topography and climate and soils, stocking rate and system, and so every system needs to be custom built for the farm, and that's why our rules are written the way they are, to support that. But if there were a formula, it would be this: go and see accredited designers, get really good advice from more than one provider, and quotes, compare notes, go to the regional council, go to Dairy NZ for independent assessments, and then make your decisions, make your plan, and then ensure that it gets implemented.
Allen was speaking from the Effluent Expo held earlier this week with a great turnout. This Sunday, you have the chance to meet the crew behind all those dramatic missions in the Trustpower TECT rescue helicopter. They're holding an open day, and as Hillary found out, you could even win a ride in the Beast.
So this coming Sunday, 10 till 2, the doors will be open, and we just basically open the doors for the public to come and have a look and meet the crew and have a look at the helicopter up close and have a go on the winch train up behind me there. Kids can have a go on that, and yeah, so there'll be all sorts of sausage sizzle and things like that, so yeah.
Why does the Trust like to hold days like these, and what's the aim?
Just awareness, really. It's a good opportunity for us to give back to the community, you know, invite them to come to our place and have a look around, and as I said, look at the helicopter, because often they just see it flying over, they don't get to sit in it or see it up close and answer questions and things like that. So,
What are some of the common questions that you get on open day?
How fast does it go and things like that. So, yeah, common sense questions, I guess. Yeah, but all sorts.
What entertainment is there going to be on the day?
Entertainment, there'll be the Ulysses Motorcycle Club. We tie in this event with the Ulysses guys, so every year they do an annual toy run, which starts at Bayfair and they end up here at the hospital. So on a good weather day, it's not uncommon to have 800 motorbikes arrive at about midday. Yeah, so 5 to 800. And as part of that, they have a demonstration ride. Riders do a bit of a thing. The police will be doing their armed defenders and dog squad display, and that's always really very entertaining. And a baddie comes out of the bushes and the dogs get him and things like that, so that is really quite entertaining, so that's well worth looking at. In the past we've had the fire service cut up cars and things, but this year they're bringing their hazmat vehicle, which is like a big command centre for any major events, and that's really high tech, so that's well worth having a look at too, so you can go inside that and have a look around and all sorts to see in there as well. So yeah, it'll be a good day.
So they might be blowing up a P-Lab or something?
Possibly, if there's one around here.
And you can actually win a ride.
You can win a ride in the rescue helicopter, so it's just an entry, I think it's gold coin donation. Just fill in a form and get picked out at the end of the day and go for a 15-minute scenic in the helicopter.
How many rescues on average do you guys perform a year?
We do about 120 to 150, whether it be rescues or inter-hospital transfers or any sort of ambulance or rescue related work. Could be search and rescue. That's our workload for the year. Its average is about 3 a week. So it's many and varied, as I said, inter-hospital transfers, accident and emergency work, some search and rescue. Winching with the Port of Tauranga Rescue Winch, which is on the aircraft there.
Can you tell us a little bit more about the Port of Tauranga Winch?
So the whole idea of the winch trainer behind us there is for our crew guys who operate the winch. We've got 4 of those, 4 guys, and they volunteer their time. It's quite a specialist role, so they need to be able to practice that to get good at what they do, because as the pilot, we're totally at their mercy. Really, they tell us which way they want the aircraft to go, whether it be up or down or left or right or whatever, when they're positioning the cable. So all that action, all the winching is out on the left-hand side of the aircraft, the pilot sits on the right-hand side, so we can't see anything of what's going on. So we're totally at their mercy, really. And so our job is to hold a position or get it to where they want the aircraft, and so they've got a straight lift up and down, which starts quite challenging, so we practice that a lot. And so the winch trainer's there so they can practice their patter and hooking winch medics on and off and doing all that side of it without flying all the time.
And is that just for stretcher-based rescues? Can you do stretcher-based rescues on the winch?
We do use a stretcher, but we try not to, because it's very challenging and very physical for the medic. But if we have to stretcher a patient, we will. In most instances, we'll use a nappy, so it's a big nappy which goes on and you can't fall out of it, and it fits anybody. So and yeah, if it's just an ankle injury or something like that, or you put them in a nappy rather than a stretcher. The stretcher's a bit more involved.
What happens if you're flying at night? How do you see?
We use night vision goggles. We've got 3 sets of the goggles now. Crewman wears a set and the pilot wears a set, and they greatly enhance the safety of what we do at night time. We can actually see where we're going now. In the past it was just quite often just a black hole with a few lights in it. So the night vision goggles they're great. They enable us basically to see the terrain. Good for searching at night. If someone's missing at night, a hunter or something, and they've got a light source, as long as they've got that going, we can see it from miles and miles away. It might be a lighter, it might be a cell phone, or any sort of light source.
I've always wondered about that, those sea rescues. How do you see someone in an ocean that goes on forever?
Yeah, that's the $1 million question. They're so hard to spot. Anything in the water is very difficult to spot, even a 16 or 18 foot boat. We've spent a couple of days searching for a boat, or several years ago now, but I think it was 2 or 3 days before they were located, and multiple aircraft out searching, and it was there, but just hard to spot.
What other cool things has she got on board?
We have a 30 million candle power night sun, which clips onto the bottom of the aircraft, and we use that for searching at night and lighting up landing areas. Although we don't use it that often these days, it's too powerful for the night vision goggles. You can have too much light for those things. So it's got a little night scanner, a little light under the belly, which we use, does the same thing as a night sun, but it's only 150 watt versus 30 million candle power. So, and that's well sufficient for the MVGs. So cool bits, mainly the winch. That's very cool. The Port of Tauranga rescue winch, which you just see on the other side of the aircraft there. That's lifts 204 kg, so 2 people at a time. 160 foot of cable, so that enables us to retrieve anybody from the bush or even from boats and things without being able to land. Often remote places we can't land nearby, so the winch enables us to lower a medic down, they secure the patient, we bring them into the aircraft.
Admission to the Open Day is a gold coin donation held this Sunday the 22nd at the Ian Payne Memorial Hangar from 10 o'clock in the morning to 2 o'clock. With the Waikato Regional Council a long-term plan out for public consultation, rates is always a hot topic of discussion. Vaughan Payne and Paula Southgate discuss the changes proposed and whom they will affect.
Well, you're right. It does look like every year that the rates increase, but this LTP delivers a very good news story about rates. For example, the first year is a 0.2% increase proposed, which is far less than inflation or CPI, and possibly one of the lowest around the place, I have to say. So that's good news, but that's an average. The second year is 0%. That's a really good score for ratepayers. But rates are always calculated on an average. So when individual ratepayers out there get their rates bill, they may find that they're less or more than that 0.2% for a variety of reasons.
And we're quite fortunate as a council that, unlike some others, we don't have any public debt. So the rates that we do collect are largely around capital works and our operations. So we're quite lucky in that respect, which is why we're able to keep our rate increases quite low. I think on a national scale, it's also quite important to understand that over the years, rate increases are actually quite low when you compare it to income tax increases or revenue generated by government. But why people get a bit grumpy about rates is that it's something that they're having to pay as opposed to something that's already taken out of their income. So that's why it generally gets a reaction.
I would like to draw the public's attention to one aspect of rates that is changing for this LTP. We have a number of charges. One of them is the uniform annual charge, which is a rate, a set amount of money per each ratepayer. So it's not based on capital value, it's just a set flat amount. And the Natural Heritage Fund, for example, is $5 plus GST, flat amount to every household. So we're proposing to increase the proportion that we take in as a flat rate in the upcoming LTP. So from 15% of our overall rate take to 18%. So that means that the flat rate applied to ratepayers will be greater and the rate on capital value will be a little less. What this does, it does move the rates around a little bit, and so people on lower income properties may experience a slight increase because it's no longer on capital value. So the public need to look at that closely as to how it affects them in their community and talk to us about whether they support that approach, that rates movement.
Is that really fair, though, on lower income families and households?
Well, rating is always a pretty rough tool at the end of the day, and there are always swings and roundabouts. It does have an impact on the low income. It does save the people with higher capital value a bit of money. Having said that, it's generally struck around where someone gets the same value for the same service. So our navigational safety, for example, is a uniform annual charge because every household in the region gets exactly the same value from that work, whereas other work is generated by the user and therefore should be reflected on who pays. So yes, I guess the public have to look at those rates and say, well, is that the fair way of that portion being levied at us?
Yeah, and if I can just explain generally what proportion of rates make up our total revenue. So of our total revenue each year, just under 70% of our revenue comes from rates. The rest comes from user charges, income from central government for work that we do on their behalf and so on. So of that 70%, about half of that rates take is for people who get a particular service, a targeted service, like being within a flood control scheme or whatever, and the rest is some of the rates that Paul is talking about, what we call a general rate, of which some of it relates to property values and some of it relates to a uniform charge.
You have a few weeks to submit feedback. Check out the Council's website for more details. That is it from me tonight and for the week. To stay up to date with everything that we do, like us on Facebook, centralnews.tv, or if you think you might have a story for us, email news@tvcentral.co.nz. We always would love to hear from you. I will be back on screens on Monday with more stories from the Waikato and the Bay of Plenty. My name is Amanda Harper. Have a good weekend. Paul Marier.
This has been an Alpha Media production, a division of Television Media Group.
Supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.